Hello and welcome to the program Inspire Children. Thank you for tuning in, and it's good for us to come your way. It's no further when we get this time to sit down and talk about issues that do affect our children. Here on Inspire Children, remember, it's a journey of building our children. We want to understand more about the issues surrounding the growth, the development of our children. Over the past few weeks, we have talked about so many topics. And today we have yet another very important conversation that we have in the house, which I believe as it comes your way, it empowers you to support the children. It empowers you to supervise the children. It empowers you to ensure that children develop to their fullest and they're able to achieve those God-given talents and purposes that they have. Today in the studio, we have a special guest, a social worker par excellence. She has been in the field for a long time. Some call her Tete. So we have today Pauline Mandigo in the house. She's going to help us to talk about some of the worries and concerns that we have, especially when we go around in our streets, in our different cities. Sometimes we come across children who are now living and probably working in the streets. We want to get to a place where we understand how they get to that place. But more importantly, we want to know what is the role of the family in preventing our children from going and living in the streets, working in the streets, and so that they remain in the home and they do what they have to do to the fullest. Welcome to the program, Tete Pau.
Thank you so much, my Chiketa. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. And it's good to always have, seasoned social workers in the house. And, one thing that really touches my heart is the great work that social workers do across the country. And sometimes I always say there are certain heroes that are rarely celebrated. People don't talk much about them, but they're doing so much and great work. And I know you're one of those people, being a social worker for a long time. You've worked with communities, you've worked with individuals, you have worked, all around, kind of an all-rounder. Social workers are all-rounder. Thank you so much for the work that you continue to do. So, Tete Pau, today we want to talk about, the role of families in terms of preventing our children from living and ending up in the streets. I know it's one of the serious concerns that people have, not only people, but also the nation, because, it's everyone's desire to see the young being in the right place at the right time and doing what they're expected to do. So as we start the program, Tete Pau, maybe you can just give us an overview of, general things that are happening around children as we start this conversation.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here and to share with you, have this conversation around our children, and specifically maybe slight focus on those that are living on the streets, and like you rightfully said, the role of family.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear when you talk about the role of family, because it is that basic unit where we have all come from.
Exactly.
I'm thinking of us sat here. We were once below 18s, the children that we talk about and define as children, as individuals below the age of 18.
When you talk about the family, it's a very important unit. We have talked about different topics on this platform. We've talked about issues of conflicts, divorces, how all these things affect our children. And as we want to understand more about what really pushes children and what can people do and families to do, because every child that we see is unique and is special, and every child that we see, like you're saying, if they end up in the street, they are coming from somewhere. They're coming from somewhere. So, Tete Pau, just to get deeper into what we've started here, what could be the early signs of that causes or push factors that can lead to a child leaving the home and they are living in a certain place? What I've come to understand, sometimes our children may not leave the home and go in the streets, but you can have a child living even their home and they end up living in another place with other people who are not their family. What are some of the things that families need to look out for that can be signs in our children?
Okay. Like we are talking about role of family and those early signs. It is within the family that we begin to see those signs that this child may not be safe. We are talking here about neglect in the family. We're talking about child abuse within the family. We're talking about some methods of disciplining children. We also look at poverty within families. We look at the kind of supervision that parents have over their children. And from your initial lead question, as we discussed this, we're talking about the role of the family. Is the eye of the adult within the family to know and understand the level of parenting and the quality of parenting that they are providing their children. If that is not there, or if we are not aware, if we are not taught within the communities, within the churches, within Kudara, we had Anatete, Anasekuru who would guide us around how to take care, when you're a young man, you're a young woman, how to take care of your wife, your husband, and your children. And talking of the family itself, the early signs you would see is if a child is constantly maybe disappearing, going to the neighbors and not coming back on time, it could be an early sign that tomorrow they might be drifting from the neighbors to the nearest shops, from the nearest shops to the nearest bus stop, from the bus stop into one city, from one city to maybe roaming around all other cities. Other early signs could be if within family, if there is a mom, is dad, or is both parents there, you're looking at the kind of discipline, the boundaries, the routines that that quality of child caring that we have within the family can tell you as mom and dad that the kind of boundaries and routines we are setting for our children can actually cause the child to leave home. There is some form of abuse, you know, where we have heard of parents beating up their children excessively. And in the end, the child might think, my option here is to come to leave home. I'm not sure if a child leaves home and says, I'm going to the street. My thinking, and having worked with children on the streets, they are leaving home to escape from a problem.
From a problem.
And the problems are some of those that you've already talked about: neglect, discipline levels, maybe poverty, abuse, and things like that. They are saying to themselves, there is a problem. So leaving home is actually for a child. In their mental capacity, they are thinking, I have a problem here.
I want to escape.
I want to solve this problem. How do I solve it? I just run away. I just escape. So leaving home is a child's solution to a problem. But not all children who are in abusive environments, who are maybe living in poverty, who are neglected, who have maybe poor parenting, opt for the streets. It's not all we have. Most of our children, they are within the community. So now it is, you can find a child maybe from a family of 3, 4, 5, maybe just one leaves home, but they are living within the same conditions. Now it's depending on the level of the maturity, developmental stage they are at. Others are more resilient. In a family of 4, one is stronger, the other one is a bit shy. So one might just feel, this is enough. Let me go away. But as children, they do not think that where I am going, it could be worse than it is at home.
They don't think about the repercussions.
They don't think of, all they think is, I've escaped the current problem. And they move.
That's the mind of a child.
Yes.
Right. You know, the things that you're speaking, Tetepa, they are profound things. That people really need to think about. We'll come back to this point soon after the break. Dear viewers, don't go away. This is a powerful conversation. Hello viewers, welcome back to the program Inspire Children. I hope you're following the conversation so that together we can support our children. Together we can build a community. Together we can build a better Zimbabwe. You know, Tete Paul, you know, the things you were talking about just before the break, they are deep and profound things. You know, I want to go back to the point where you indicated that it is the child's young mind that thinks that I am solving a problem by running away from home. That is very deep. And most often, I think adults sometimes forget those key elements. And thank you so much for reminding us, not only as families, as the nation, to the fact that there is what we call a young mind in the adults. And indeed, the adults have to support and ensure that children are helped. There's something that you talked about. You talked about boundaries. I read an article, and someone was highlighting that, sometimes as adults, there are things that we do that harm our children unknowingly. We are not realizing that we are literally affecting our children. And you have talked about boundaries. Can you talk more about that in terms of the boundary and the system that you're talking about, how it really contributes? I want us to go back to that point.
Okay. As families, as parents, we have expectation of, we have what we're expecting of our children. We are setting the routines. You wake up at 6 o'clock to take a bath, to prepare for school, leave for school. When you're done with school, come straight home, things like that. Every family, every parent wants their child to have that kind of routine because that prepares them for adulthood. Yes. Even when they go to school, they have timetables in school. That prepares them for the work life that you come to work at 8 and you knock off at 5:30 and or whatever time. So it's starting from home, getting up time. It's not like they wake up anytime they want. So you will find that within with our children today, they might not find it, and maybe it's just their misunderstanding, or it could be the way we as adults are talking about children's rights, where children are thinking, if you are abusing me, or I have a right to do this. I'm not really sure exactly where our children maybe miss it in terms of when as parents we try to set these boundaries and routines for them.
So indeed the routines are very important. And so what you're saying is every family should have a routine, a system of helping, and by doing so we are building up our children. So, so your point that you're sharing with us, it is connecting to a very important piece, that when our children go unsupervised, when there's no supervision, that means there is no system in place. No one watches the children.
You're right. You're right.
Talk more about the supervision aspect, how it's a very important practical approach to safeguarding our children within the home.
Okay. Before I forget, I might forget this point. I want to talk about supervision, especially online supervision, especially with our children who have access to gadgets, to internet.
Exactly.
I think that bit is maybe where, as parents, as adults, we need to tighten up a bit, because what our children are accessing online is things that we are busy with our work, with hustling and all that, but we are forgetting supervising our children while online. We're not sure what they are watching. We're not even sure
what they're absorbing,
and internalizing. I just wanted to touch on that before I forget.
It's very important.
But otherwise, supervision itself is depending on age groups. We are supervising our children from birth until they are adults. But there is a certain stage where we are saying maybe they are 4, 5, 6, 7. We are wanting to supervising how they are playing, otherwise they'll hurt each other or things like that. But there's a certain supervision where at a certain age, especially the the 12 teens going into the adolescent, when you want to supervise who they are playing with, what they are doing in their spare time, where they go, that's I think where our teens might actually miss it and feel, why is mom, why is dad, why is aunt, why is Gogo always wanting to know where I am? And when we miss that, we don't know where they are playing. We don't know their friends. In case of a child that's thinking about leaving home to escape from we don't know what, or some of it may not just be the neglect, the abuse, the poverty that we've spoken about. It could actually be just the adolescent mind that's
Yes.
wanting to experiment and wanting to leave home and maybe land on the
Yes.
street.
Yes.
Then if we are not supervising our children, we will not see those trends as adults, as caregivers
Yeah.
of children.
Very
We
true.
will not see the pattern that this child,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
early signs we might miss on that.
Because we're absent.
We are absent. And sadly also we there is the level of adults working away from home and maybe leaving children unsupervised.
Yes.
There is that risk of exposure to all kinds of things. There could be influence from friends, from online, as we're talking about. And you know, we sometimes say in our culture, children are seen,
Exactly.
not heard.
Yeah.
In that context, we would refer to it as, we don't usually like give an ear to children. I'll give an example in
Exactly.
when you want to move home.
Yes.
We are just talking as adults that we are moving
yeah, we're
from
not asking.
this location to there. We forget that this child at the school where they were,
Yeah.
they had their own support system of friends within the school. The next thing they hear, Mama watenga imba, or variku move out from here. We never had that conversation. Yes. So you move to another neighborhood, the child is still thinking of friends, and after school they might not even come home and say, let me pop back
to
where
my
we used to be.
friends.
You don't know what they are meeting on the road.
You know, I
Don't know-
like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The ability to listen to the children. I believe from what you're saying, it also contributes, right, to empowering our children and also protecting them. Because when you have conversation, despite the age, they begin to understand what is happening, or even to have this conversation like what we're having, why they are doing certain things, how it's important for them. It's like an enlightenment, a learning moment. And I believe what you're saying is very critical. You know, when you're sharing, I was reminded of someone very close to me who indicated how some years ago when they were young, how their parents decided to change the house where they were renting and they were going to the other house. So he says, my parents decided to shift from where we were renting within the same location. But unfortunately, what happened? They went to rent at a house where one of the classmates, and this classmate was a girl, and they went to rent that house. And it had really effects on the child, the mental, you know, the anger, the tantrums. Why are we going to live at someone's house that I learn with? It looks like something small in adults' mind, but it had repercussions on that particular person, their esteem.
For children,
for children, it's
like
something
we are renting,
big.
this is my classmate,
This
and
my
we're having to
classmate,
rent.
and this is our
So it
landlords.
looks,
Yes.
I understand.
So I believe what you're saying is very critical, how families need to find that learning moment, having conversation with children and beginning to listen to them. Thank you so much for that, Tetepa. We'll just take a short break and come and conclude this conversation. Viewers, don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, viewers, to Inspire Children, where we have that conversation around our children. Today we are talking about the role of families in ensuring that we prevent our children from living and working in the streets. You know, Tetepa, this conversation, I know it's a long conversation, but I want us to get straight to, you know, some of the critical things that we need to learn. What is the impact when our children leave home and they're in another space, you know, unsupervised, like you indicated, in another space, probably which is infested with adults and things like that. What happens to our children? All
right. Let's talk about a child that has left home and has come onto the streets in a town, in a city. This is a child that is thinking, I've run away from a problem.
Yes.
And in their mind, maybe where I am going is better. There might be adults that are caring.
Yes.
But sadly, the adults that they meet, in some cases, they perpetuate the abuse.
Exactly.
So that child is exposed to all sorts of abuses, exploitation, the glue sniffing, the drugs, the economic exploitation where an adult just thinks, they can sell airtime for me, they can sell my bananas, and I give them a
Yes.
meal,
A meal.
or I give them a corner to sleep by my
Yes.
tuck shop or something like that. And having worked with street children before, and having interacted with some that have left the street, one child said, I came to the street thinking it might be better.
Yes.
All I wanted was maybe someone who could pick me up and just help me or just listen to me. But I did not find that. All I found was ndiri kutukwa, ndiri kunyimwa chikafu, ndiri kutreatwa as a monster.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a monster inside.
Yeah.
I was a child. But with time, the negative narratives, the negative labels actually made me into
Someone else.
someone else.
Yeah.
They actually said a monster
Yes.
that I became. Were it not for somebody else later on in life that helped me out of that situation.
Yes.
So we have seen an innocent child that have moved
Moved.
thinking it's okay there. And unfortunately, they meet with other children maybe who have lived longer on the street. They get introduced to all kinds of behaviors.
things.
It's for survival.
Yes.
They look how they look. They sniff what they sniff for their survival.
Yeah.
And what we are seeing is we are creating the child that we are seeing,
Yeah.
who will grow into an adult. But fortunately,
Yeah.
I know we have our Department of Social Services.
Yes.
They are on it.
On it, working hard.
I think from the time I was in uni, there were already programs
Yes.
by the Department of Social Services that time, by other
Yes,
organizations working within the child
Mhm.
protection
Yeah.
sector, and today they
Yeah.
don't tire.
Don't I?
They so we have those adults through our Department of Social Development. We have such adults through churches. There are a lot of people that actually try and support these
Support the
children. But my wish is then, if all those that are supporting can channel that
Yeah.
their support, so that the Department of Social Development is aware of who is doing what. I
Yeah.
know they are aware, but there are also some individuals who just think, I just
just
give
help.
them lunch here, or I just give them. It's important that
Wow.
you notify someone in the authorities
So that
to
they
say
are-
we are doing. They are adults
They are adults.
that are actually
So that
helping
our
the children.
efforts are wide.
There are efforts. There are
Indeed,
efforts.
indeed.
Yes.
Very true, very important, Tetepa, what you're saying. It's very, what I would just add to what you're saying is, we need more hands as well.
Yes.
And as a nation, we are able to do this. If every one of us takes the responsibility of saying it takes a village to raise a child, and we all support children within our small communities, our small locations, I believe we can make a great impact, and we can prevent our children from ending up at the other side of the rope. Tetepa, I want you to talk to the children. Maybe the children that are just listening, just an encouragement, a general encouragement to them on what really they need to do, what and sometimes when children misunderstand children, what is it that you would say to them?
To our children that could be listening or viewing this, I would say, find amongst the adults around you, within your family, within your community, at church, at school, that you are comfortable talking to, especially when you encounter problems. Chingowane one munhu unoti kana inini zvandinetsa panapa, I will go to Gogo Nengi, or to Baba Mnini Nengi, or to my class teacher, or to my past chero munhu unofunga within your community kuti kana zvaomesesa in my life, I would want to talk to this adult because you feel safe, you feel kana shamwari ya mama kana shamwari ya gogo, if watchka gogo or watchka mama or mainini, just find that one individual unonotaura naye before you opt for the streets.
Exactly. Wow. Profound words from Tetepa. Thank you so much, Tetepa, for coming, and we look forward to having you again on the program. Dear viewers, thank you for joining us today. I believe Nyanga Mudariro that we need to really protect our children. We can all play a part in preventing our children ending up and working in the streets. Guess what? When they end in there, the innocent child is developed into another person. But we can do something about it. And it starts early within your home. Begin to have conversation with children. Begin to love them unconditionally. Begin to speak to them. Let them be heard. Even in things that are obvious, get a time to sit down with them. Children also want to be heard. As they grow up, when we listen to them, they also learn to listen to other people. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to having you again on the program. If you've got questions, if you've got topics that you want us to tackle, please free to share with us on the WhatsApp number on the platform. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Goodbye.